Hey friends, it's Sherman, and welcome to another episode of Tea Time with Sherman. Sitting with me today is Connie, former Edmonton queen and now Montreal queen of several years now, hey?
Yeah, okay. 5 years actually. This September it's been 5 years.
Oh wow, since I was an infant and everything like
that.
So we're going to talk about your drag and your drag career and tranny stuff and all those things. Yeah. You ready?
I love it when people say that word, so I am.
It's just like a funny thing to me. I feel like people don't make a bigger deal about it than it actually is.
Okay.
Your thoughts on that?
I just think it's empowering.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about stuff. All right, so I think your drag started a lot of, gender fucky. Can we kind of say that?
Yeah, I can do that sometimes.
Because looking at your photos, and I feel like it's sort of similar to RuPaul and how it's, very kind of more, half girl. It's a lot of things.
Andro. Some people in Montreal call me Andro. I never really saw myself as, that and, blank before, blank page. But a little bit of both here and there. I'm kind of like a butch queen.
Because I feel like I've seen a few photos of you where you're doing a bearded thing at the same time as wearing a dress and having a wig on.
You contour your hairy chest and it looks amazing. I'm not even kidding. It's just the hair brings out the oomph, you know?
Okay. Love it.
Stop you.
Alright, let's moving forward. So I feel like you've had a definitely drag evolution. This is a picture of taking, is that Boots?
That is the Roost. That is upstairs at the Roost.
Okay, do you know what year
that's the photo shoot I have. Oh my god, that's before 2007. That's when I was Ms. Gay. That was 2004? 5?
Okay, and this is a photo from the summer in Montreal.
Yes.
What have you learned in that time since those two photos, as I almost still
wow. This girl knows how to be a film star, and is upset with that. That's definitely a challenge right now going for her.
Do you think that you had a lot of this is you starting a pageant because it's kind of easy to get into the pageant system here at Edmonton?
That's a pageant smile. Look at that smile, girl.
That's a crown-winning smile.
It was.
Okay, so moving on. Next, we had used to do events with the Igby Lizard. How are those? What was that like now versus what you do now? Or what was that then versus now? Oh god, English is awful.
It was definitely there's still some punk rock stuff that I do. But that was it felt stylistically most being at New City Suburbs, this amazing queer. Oh god rest Terry England. Oh, we just recently lost that fabulous diva. And she was for someone who has always felt as a queer queen, kind of in betweeny. Having people like that was so amazing because that's what the Roost was like. And I remember in the old gay and there's always been the misogynist bars and the man-hating bars and the sweater bars and blah 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 and the drag bars, but it felt really cool. It did feel kind of the end of an era though. That was the end of New City and kind of another dynasty. It was kind of the hardcore elements of downtown that I think are disappearing because of all the fancy.
Right. Okay. So you guys more of a punk rock scene then versus now is kind of turning into a glamour sort of thing?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, definitely. Igby's gotten a hell of a lot more glamorous. Holy shit! I feel I'm going through a different wave again. I feel I returned to trash, and now I'm going back to a little bit glamour. But I've always been kind of in between in a weird way.
Okay.
I love vintage.
Right.
I love vintage anything. So I inherited a lot of dresses actually from past Edmonton queens. From I have a Millicent dress. I have crazy stuff from Sticky Vicky.
Okay.
And Binky that passed me down.
So you've also did an event with Igby called Queers Never Die. What was that event? And I know that's kind of birthed into what Chelsea and Lilith do now with Homicidal. What was that event like?
Well, it was basically a hardcore DJ in party hard house and electro and industrial dance, and then crazy produced shows that were. This is the first one, right? Yeah, that.
I don't know. It was before my time.
It was we were trying to go to a monthly. We would be hearing about doing all these queer monthlies. Maybe that's where it's at because we saw the kind of bars, how things were changing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Brendan did just I think she was just starting school or something, and Igby.
Professional names only.
Brigby is the company. I'm Contonia. She's Brigby. And it was just really great. It was an amazing idea. I think it was Ted Kerr who moved to New York, worked with A.A. Bronson, who's from Edmonton, wrote the Queermonton column in C and View was it View or C? I don't remember.
C.
Yeah, C. I see now. So I think he was the one that like inspired Igby for the name. And then she was when she was working at the Pride Center, and it was like a beautiful brainchild to like combine our talents, and it was kind of a send-offy show, June 27th, like, because then I left that September. I'd moved to Montreal September, like, 3rd or 4th of that year. But, and we did, what's that fucking show Rocky Horror.
Right.
Right after that year.
And that is a perfect transition, so thank you for that. You also cut up Queen, which is kind of like a rare thing sometimes I find with Queens, because there are a lot of, like, just they see what they do on RuPaul's Drag Race, but I feel like a lot of Queens, like you and, like, Lilith, do, like, a lot of, like, theater. Here's you doing a little Rocky Horror picture and like kind of burlesque look. Like, talk about your theater background, because I know that's something that you do.
Well, I've always done like plays in French immersion and in Italian school Saturday fucking mornings. Thanks, Mom and Dad. No, really, I learned a lot, but sometimes I was still high on ecstasy from the rave the night before in my teenage years. And yeah, that kind of like doing Rocky Horror feels like doing that kind of era again, when you're like all experimenting. Even though it's like this old school, it still feels like you're talking about that kind of like rebirth of sex and drugs and craziness and murder, gore and stuff like that, hardcoreness. So yeah, this photo was like the 3rd time that I did it. When we did it at New City, it was the 2nd time. We did it at the Catalyst before that.
Okay.
And then I did it at the Mainline Theatre for the past 3 years in Montreal. I think it's my 5th time. I want to take a break, though.
Right.
Because I find with like, drag in, like, shows, as someone who is one of those kind of trannies, that it affects me so much more. It really becomes a part of me. And it's a cursed show, so enjoy!
Confusing here for a second, but you did talk a few times about your moving to Montreal. What's kind of like what's that been like going from an Edmonton queen and like the Edmonton scene to now being a Montreal queen for about 5 years now? What's the difference there, and like how do you just the difference in everyday life, and what's the difference there between living in Edmonton versus living in Montreal?
I've thought about this a lot. Really,
this is a very hardcore news show.
Yes, it's a hardcore news show. Ooh, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Too bad we didn't do that on Screw earlier when this was filmed.
But I think Edmonton, Winnipeg, Montreal, and like St. John's are kind of similar culturally in Canada. Are the more like oomphy places. And then I said with the 2nd time I said oomph. And no Oompa Loompas. That's like Victoria.
Okay.
And so there's like a little bit of like craziness, like club culture. There's like a diverse kind of scene of entertainment. But definitely Montreal is like older.
Okay.
And I think something they both share in common, there's like older queer histories. Even for Edmonton, like there's always think about all these fucking like gay cowboys like sent out here, and but even for 100 years we've been working at Fort Edmonton. We discovered there's been a few confirmed bachelors and whatnot. Like the Milla Pub used to be a gay bar, and I'm sure there was drag back then. I'm sure people were at some point. Yeah, supposedly. This I learned at Darren Hagen's bus tour, so you should take that, of course. But it's there's the thing though with Edmonton is that everyone speaks the same language. English is the dominant language. So, but in Montreal, because drag is formed after Quebec culture, like you think of the play Hosanna, it's really like identified with that. Like Mado takes the role of like the goddess drag like deity of Quebec and says so. You know, represents this. Mado Lamotte is like the drag queen. Like she's very genderfuck, like cartoony. Yeah, I think that I'm loving to see there's still the vivaciousness. Edmonton is based in like a lot of theater drag.
Okay.
And I think that comes from doing like the Edmonton Symphony Opera. Like the opera has been around for like over like 100 years in Edmonton, and and even those
Fringe too. Like I feel like a lot of queens, you, Terry Stevens, even Calgary, even though she's Calgary queen, her and Twiggy, like they'd all do a show every Fringe. You used to do a lot of Fringe shows when you were here.
Well, Guys in Disguise. I think it's really important to bring queer presence to Fringe, Because otherwise it won't be, like, really fringy. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
And we've had problems with that not problems, but I find in Montreal it's not the same kind of representation because it's such a big queer. There's queerness, and then there's the gay village like people, and then there's like the punks in the other neighborhood. Like there's these kind of other like aspects, and there's like the trans community and the queers of color community. Like
geez.
so,
Too
yeah.
many.
So there's, you have all these queens from these cliquey kind. Well, they're not cliquey, but some of the it's not as integrated because of the language thing and the like neighborhoods too. It's very founded that way.
I don't think that's sort of about your theater experience, but you also like write songs now because you did it when you were here last year for Homicidal. You wrote a song
I've
called
always written
Evil,
songs. I did. It was in Mexico.
Okay,
and I was doing. It was the day after I did drag in this like San Cristobal de las Casas, more progressive town, like way in the south of Mexico in Chiapas, for this like NYU class I did about performance and politics,
right?
Art and resistance. And I was so like hungover because I was drinking then, and I was in mezcal, like this crazy tequila. And we were going to the Zapatistas, these like revolutionaries, you know, post-colonial revolutionary pacifists now, I guess.
Right.
And they, and I was like, I was so like weepy and stuff because I was considering my privilege of being in the global south and all this. And then I was like, I miss Edmonton. Why don't I move back there after I'm done school? And just thinking about it, and it felt like all this like emotion and like just the beat, and the beat just came out of me, man. It was like wavelength. It was one of those.
You're such a hippie.
I am though. I've always been a hippie, punky, rocky, weirdo theater queen, kind of.
Okay.
Trippy.
Let's move into everyone's favorite segment of the show. Let's read bitches.
Oh, bitch! I am nervous for this.
Let's get your glasses ready.
No.
Like I said before, reading's not just necessarily making fun of people, but it's telling stories that I might not know, and it's fun.
I'm good for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raven,
I will give you my number. Call me. I give really good blowjobs.
she wants to kai with you. Next, Binky and Ethel.
Binky and Ethel?
Oh, one of the two, either.
Ethel has the most, like, flawlessness ever. People in Montreal would be like, that queen, that she has, like, an alcohol name. I was like, yeah. Binky is just the real housewife of Edmonton, and I learned that you can be a total glamour diva and at the same time as being, like, a totally kooky, quirky, like, cuckoo pants.
Igby Lizard.
Igby Lizard. She is a monstrous, terrifying, jiggling thunder cunt. And I love her so dearly. Maybe one day we will see each other again.
You probably will. Sharon Needles.
Sharon Needles has big shoulders, and she's taller than I thought. And she just has this, like, dead stare. Like, the dead stare is real. I don't think it's an act.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next we have Mia Fellow.
Best cleavage in the West, definitely. I think I saw a tranny porno. My first tranny porno I saw was with Mia in it. I'm pretty sure. I have too many incriminating stories with this girl to read her too much because she's a lot better at being a bitch than I am. Okay.
Do you have any regular gigs in Montreal you want to promote in case any of your friends want to see this?
I'm doing this like Encounters Project Projet Rencontre thing. It's like a intercultural intermedia thing, and I'm working with like African immigrants and like people who are Pakistani, Filipino from different parts of Canada, and like different religions and stuff, and just like me, like drag queen religion, you know, Church of Queen. Like kind of like playing each other and like doing these verbatim interviews and stuff, and there's like a drag night in it, so I'll be performing that, and I'm working on that in development. Radical Queer Cement in Montreal is coming up. I'm doing a Fringe show. I'm officially announcing this, I guess.
Okay.
It won't be in Edmonton. I'm hoping for next year's Fringe, but it's called Laureen, Queen of the Tundra.
Okay.
And in honor of the L Word herself,
right.
Laureen Harper. And our Prime Minister's wife. And that's going to be like an interesting kind of something a little bit on the same lines. We'll be like videotaping some creation symbols and make some like lovely RCMP chorus lines. So that's in June.
Okay.
Yeah, what else is coming? Oh, I have burlesque all in like hosting burlesque shows in January.
Nice.
And Oh yeah, short and sweet. This dance show on July 19th, and then I'm doing Cabaret Tole.
All the things.
Yeah, with a performance called "The Oil Sands Give Us HIV."
I don't like. Okay, that's a weird ending to this episode.
Oh, great! I'm good for weird endings.
Oh.
You know, it's like when you get it in the eye.
It's like not a happy ending. It's like a weird ending.
No, and you're like, okay, I think I'm gonna just like, can I shower? Or should I just put my jacket on? You know, one of those.
This has been another great episode of Tea Time with Sherman with my great guest, Connie Linguia. Bye.
Bye.